Nkosana Makate has been to all the courts except small claims because his invention is worth 20 billion, if not more. And if you've been following the story of Nkosana, you would understand how this is groundbreaking. This is the first time where a person in South Africa has challenged a corporate company, a giant corporate company, claiming for what is rightfully his. It's the first of its kind. And the fact that it's a black man who's doing this, it adds another element because as much as he created this idea, he invented this, there have been talks about, oh, he's not the one who engineered the idea. He's not the one who did this and that. But everybody seemed to be missing the point. If he didn't come up with this invention, with the idea, there wouldn't have been any creation. So he deserves his billions. He deserves his money. And what I've noticed is that throughout the years, when you watch the people who interviewed him, the host who interviewed him, he is such a warm, loving person. He always has a smile on his face. And at times I ask myself, I'm like, how are you not angry? How are you not defeated? He is just the same throughout, and he is showing this side of himself. He's telling us the backstory of how he even, came up with this idea. And you can see how personal it is or was for him. And then you have this person who was, I think, a CEO at that time. I think his name is Alan, not Craig. And he lied and said he came up with this invention, knowing very well that he was not the one responsible for it. And of course, he got the praises and the everything. And I wondered, how the hell did Nkosana feel? The moment when he perhaps read the book and was like, dude, you never came up with this idea. It was my idea. But what I love most about him, it's his warrior spirit. Man, he is such a warrior. If this was anybody else, they would have been broken. They would have committed suicide. They would have, they would have taken the money that was even offered, but he has kept this going for years. And it just shows you the resilience of this man. He is such a resilient person. And it's a miracle how this hasn't changed his personality, because he still goes to interviews and he still talks, and we get to see the person behind the invention, whereas Vodacom has basically been cold throughout this whole thing. They've been cold. They've not really, said much because they know what the idea of like your neighbor. So they are just this cold entity in this whole thing. And this is the first of its kind, especially in our country, and perhaps also globally, I'm not saying this is the first time there has been people who are fighting for their inventions. No, that has happened. But this is the first of its kind where a person really is going head to head with such a big corporate company, a corporate company that has made more than 250 billion from his please call me invention, only for them to not give him his worth. And there was a time when I watched one of his interviews and he said that he was told that he's being greedy, and he will never get a cent from this invention, which is what actually made him, angry, because he's thinking, I came up with this. I wanted to settle this out of court, but you're telling me that I can't get anything? So he just said, fine, bring it on, you know? And he's been through every court. And the worst part is that because they are running away from paying him his worth, they've been dragging him to courts, which is what these rich corporate companies do. They have the money and the means and the lawyers to drag a case for years to a point where a person even gives up. But it's been, 20 years? And Nkosana has been going strong. And it looks like this time he's going to finally get his worth. Now, they offered him, quite a bit of money. They came up to a number of 47 million. And I remember because I was also one of the people who thought that, hey man, just take the money. It's not worth the headache. Just take the money and cut this off and leave. And the moment he rejected that, I was like, shit. Damn. Yo, are you seriously rejecting this much money? But then when he explained it, I realized, Tina siyamakwala. We are looking at the little picture, We are looking at 47 being a huge amount of money, which it is, granted, but it is not the worth of his invention, right? So this is a man who actually knows his worth. And this case has been going on for 18 plus years. How much legal fees is that? So if he takes 47 million, where does this 47 million go? It would go towards the legal fees and the everything. And how much is it really going to be left with? So I was like, yes, sis. This man is actually very, very smart, because had it been any other person, they would have even accepted 10 million, which is nonsense, And it's so weird how Vodacom keeps on exposing themselves. Nkosana was only claiming the revenue, his worth, for revenue generated in South Africa. And this invention has been rolled out to 19 other countries, right? Which means they only calculated the worth here in South Africa and not necessarily all the other 19 countries. So if it was you, wouldn't you want what is owed to you? Nkosana is teaching us to be resilient. He's teaching us to know our worth, because most of y'all settle for things that are not even worth your worth, honestly. You'll settle for the bare minimum. And this is a guy who's saying that, no, I'm the one who came up with this idea, and I should get what is owed to me. That's power. That is power right there. And another thing that I really love about this case, I know it's a hectic case, but it's actually shaking up industries, because a lot of these corporate giants have been chowing people's ideas and monies for the longest time. How many times have you heard of a person coming up with a proposal, coming up with an invention, and never getting anything from what they came up with? How many times have you heard of that? Every time a person writes a proposal, the next thing you're seeing, and it even happens in creative industries where you would propose a show, and then the next thing you are seeing that show, but you got nothing for it, and you keep on saying, but that's my idea. At that point, it doesn't matter, because whoever had the money and the resources now has taken your idea. So this is shaking up industries. It's making people see that if something is yours, it is yours. And also, I'm sure they're watching closely because Nkosana is going to win this case. He's definitely going to win it. He has the right legal team. He has a contract. It has been determined that actually he is the owner of this idea. He's the one who came up with it. So he's going to win it. So do you understand how that would be for any other child growing up in a township who has an invention? They now would realize that it's possible. It's possible to come up with something and for you to actually be the owner of it and get your worth from it. This has been happening for centuries, actually, where people would come up with ideas, right? But somebody else would waltz in. Specifically, let's just go to the race thing, because as much as some people want to avoid it, it's there, it's lingering. And I feel that part of the reason that they've been sending him up and down, it's because he's a black man. I said it. Most of the time people will say, oh, but you're bringing up race all the time. Yay. Race plays a huge role, and we are seeing it right now. How many black people have came up with inventions and never got a cent from it? Today, their ideas are generating money for other races. How many black people? And it's so weird that when you read articles written by him, written about him, you can almost see the tone of it, you can tell. You are like, okay, based off the publication, you can tell what, okay, yabolana, they are trying to say ukuthi he's not worthy of the idea. Ngoba umuntu omnyama. You can just tell. And what also used to irritate me about this whole thing is that whenever you watch interviews, because it was a community of people, behind him, supporting him. They even started the Please Call Me movement. Whenever they were interviewed, can't remember the guy's name, who was actually head spearing the Please Call Me movement. Whenever he was being interviewed, you could see that labantu laba are more interested in, they have a white agenda. You could just tell based off the questions and based off isn't that the basic. But the guy was very patient, and he would even say, Tina, we've been supporting this guy, but we've never damaged any property. We've never done this, because it always goes back to, so what if property gets damaged? And I'm like, really? Kuyo yonke lento bekuvuka lokhu ukuthi angeke kwazi ukuthi kube umuntu omnyama ongaba nemali engaka, ongaqhamuka nento enjeni. But they're forgetting the fact that a lot of things were built on the backs of black people. Umlungu ngaba neplus, right? Alebile, siyakwazi lokho. Ubani osebenza kulelo plus? Umuntu omnyama. Ubani ofukuza ngalendlela? Umuntu omnyama. Ekugcineni imali ethola uba uyena lo muntu ophethe iplus. Uyena ozothola imali. ekugcineni sithi hayi usibanibani une-generational wealth. Yes, une-generational wealth ayithole ngeslavery. Asikuphiki lokho, yebo umbuso awuthola ngeslavery. Now the difference between Nkosana nalabo bantu is the fact that Nkosana used technology. Waqhamuka ne-idea. Uthi mawuyilalela futhi le idea ubone ukuthi no, it stemmed from a need. Ukuthi azi ukuthi yeah, umuntu wami uyangikhumbula njengamanje noma ngingamfonela umuntu wami, because it was absolutely frustrating at that time ukuthi umuntu mhlawumbe engabi nayo imali yokukufonela, so you don't know whether to call or not to call, you don't even know ukuthi right yini. And also it was a way of even telling the network itself ukuthi yazini, I'm still the owner of this phone. Don't block my number. Don't give it to somebody else. So his invention helped the people who were in townships. I mean, that's a brilliant invention. Mind you, what they are trying to do is deny him what is rightfully his. Seriously? Kodwa engikuthandayo ngoNkosana ukuthi uyiqhawe. Hayi uyiqhawe lamaqhawe shem. So nje Nkosana should get what's owed to him, and he definitely will get what's owed to him. Ayikho enye indlela. This case is groundbreaking. You know, it is fascinating to watch, and it's also teaching us valuable lessons. Know your worth. And it's also, you know, educating us, because we didn't know about, well, abanye bethu, that is, we didn't know ukuthi you have to register ilontuza yakho, idea yakho. Now we know. We were introduced to new terms. We like, oh, okay, patent. Okay. So interfighting izazi lezo mangabe ngifuna ukuhamba ngiqali invention yabo. But we cannot deny the fact that invent, it is quite costly. But now corporates will think twice before stealing from the little man, from the little guy, from the woman. They'll think twice, especially when Nkosana gets his worth. So, you know, it's been a case that has been dragging for more than a decade, you know, and I really want to see him win. And there are some people who keep on saying, Ogote, but, well, what's the point? It's not as if Leo Mali is Ozagnina. You're missing the point. It's not about that. We know we're not getting a sense of this, but it's the hope that Nkosana is giving to the black child. Ogote, when you have created something, know your worth and fight for what is yours. Don't back down. It's, you know, it's that little thing that he's instilled in us. Do not fear anything. Right now, we fear for call. Like, yeah. If I did this, then awukwazi ukuthi ungavele nje uthathe nje bese kuyathuleka nje. Kube ngazi ukuthi akwenza kangalotho. Never. You know? So it's that warrior spirit that he has instilled in us. Ukuthi ukhumbule ukuthi lalela. You're worth it. You're worth it. Your ideas are worth it. Fight for what is yours. Dream and never back down. So it's more than just money. It's the hope. And also the resilience that noma zingafika ivunguvungu, you just stand your ground, you know? So I really, really want to see him win. And vele, uzowin. Sekuseduze nje. Usewinile vele. Asishoni kanjalo, usewinile, you know? He's gotten it. Imali yakhe. OkwaKhesara kubuyela uKhesara. So that's it for this week, guys. And up until next time, don't forget to be a grounded flavor. Igama lami uSibulelo, inkosazana yakwamyeni. Have a good one. So before I forget, Nkosana is actually a very brave person because anything could have happened to him. More so when they gave him, angithi baqala ngedeal yabani 10 million, then it was up to 47 million. So when he rejected that, I was thinking, yes, sis, if they cannot beat you, they'll find ways to get rid of you. So I used to think, how safe is he? Up until I watched the interview, who's this? King David, yeah. And I realized, when he said that, actually, just because yena keko, it does not mean ukuthi icala liyaphela. And I was like, actually, yes. Just because you are not there does not mean ukuthi the whole intellectual property thing ends. No, it doesn't.